The Rockford Symphony Orchestra celebrates the 250th anniversary of the United States by showcasing American music and its rich and diverse heritage. The evening began with Jesse Montgomery's A Hymn for Everyone, which the RSO calls a vibrant work that reflects the spirit of unity and shared history. To celebrate the innovator of the American sound, the concert closed with Aaron Copland's tribute to the American West, Rodeo. Julie Thomas, the executive director of the Rockford Symphony Orchestra, believes the way we have created our country and our culture comes through music.
We are celebrating American composers, and there are some who have been gone for some time, but two of the composers are living composers, one of whom is performing here tonight. So we are performing his work, and he is also the soloist in the piece as well. So that's really significant. And if we can champion living composers, we can continue that cultural tradition in our country.